Next up is a brand new area of Ucommerce. It's the customer center. So for a few years, we've had feedback, why don't you do a customer center, a place where we can see all the customers and the orders and other priorities. But the time is right, because this is a thing that works particularly well for B2B, as you will see in a moment. What we did with Customer Center was to be able for you to know your customers, and then more importantly, act on what you know of your customers. And so the first thing is customer accounts. The ability to set up customer accounts for your individual customers on the website, see the order history, manage their attributes. And ultimately, you will be able to create personalized customer experiences using this tool. The first thing is order history, right? So when if you're part of customer success or customer service, you will have customers calling in with questions about their orders. And with Customer Center, it's super easy to find the customer you're after. You just Google them via email or whatever, and you can see all the data about this customer, as well as all the orders they've placed and the order details as well. So just a handy little tool. It shows information that's always been part of Ucommerce, but it surfaces it in a new way, which is sort of more easy to work with in this particular context. We're also introducing customer profiles. So this is the ability to enrich the customer profiles with more information. So we don't know exactly what it is you need to know about your customers. So what we did is we enabled definitions and derived definitions for this to enable you to just basically set it up the way you want. So here's an example. So in a B2C scenario, I've set up a retail customer definition. So just a B2C customer. I just added a couple of properties to it, age and gender. Pretty standard stuff, but you can sort of see how we can use it for various scenarios. The gender in particular will enable you, say, in a clothing store, to guide your customer into the relevant store for male or female or children or whatever. But you can use derived definitions to further expand on this and use specifications in particular. So you can set up a size preferences definition, which is just basically preferred clothing size and shoe size. Easy as that, right? And because it uses the definition system, you can go ahead and define what should be selectable in here when you edit the customer profile. And of course, the customer itself can also edit that. And basically, this is what we end up with. Let's take a look at what it looks like inside of Ucommerce. So we navigate back to Ucommerce, and we find the Customer Center here. And you'll notice there are two areas, and don't worry about it. We'll talk about organizations in a little bit. This is where it gets super interesting. But let's start with customers. So real simple, you can navigate all the customers you have in your system, and you can create new ones if you want. And of course, you can find customers by searching for it. So if you are a customer service representative, you should have an easy way to do it. And I think this Omni search box is a great way to go. Navigate into that, and you can see a few things. And here's the order history. And of course, you can navigate to the order and see all the details. In addition to that, you'll notice up here that we have the definition set up. So in this case, we're just using a default customer definitions that has been added a few other things, like clothing size and shoe size down here. And we're using basically the PIM to do this as well. So you can set up these predefined lists of sizes if you want, and shoe sizes as well. And from there, this data can be leveraged in other contexts. For example, to say you're viewing a product page, you can use the clothing size to pre-filter results. So you can have like a my sizes thing that just sort of pre-populates facets on the front end. So John Smith here goes directly to clothing that fits him, right? So that's the customer side of things. Let's just go back and we'll talk about organizations next. So in B2B, organizations, trading partners are super important. And we introduced the organizational accounts for you to be able to group customers into certain organizations. So they sort of represent a trading partner or a business unit that you work with. So you can manage the accounts for organizations and the representatives within that organizations when they do purchases and things like that. So it's kind of like the customer profile, but sort of at a higher level. When you organize your customers like this, you don't have to, but you can. You are able to track order history across the entire organization. So imagine a scenario where you have one organization with multiple buying representatives. Each of those representatives may place, a few orders every month, and using the order history tracker, you can basically see all the orders that are placed by this organization. So you have an easier time figuring out what's what. And of course, you can also see individual order history like we just saw. It works for B2B as well. In addition, we have organizational profiles. So essentially the same deal as customers, but in this case, you would use it for maybe some other things. It still uses definitions and derived definitions, so you can really go nuts with the information you store about organizations. We realized that a lot of this data sort of is mastered somewhere else in a CRM or something like this. Why we have it is because you can take that information, make it available in Ucommerce, and create workflows around it. So like the next one here. So just an example, a B2B workflow that I think most of us are familiar with, spend limits. So the general idea, super simple. You have a number of representatives for an organization, and that organization has a rule in place that says, they can place orders up to a certain limit. From there, it needs to be approved. So the way to set it up is to create a B2B trading partner definition that you create organization based on. There's a customer number, country, state, just to give you a sense of what it could be. You could add other things, right? And then you mix in a spend limit definition with an approval spend limit and an approver email. So on the organization, you'll basically have these two fields to work with where you can enter an amount and an email that when you reach that amount, an email will be sent to rr@acme.com, and this person will approve the order for further workflow. So you can sort of imagine an order workflow where instead of going from a cart state to order state, it enters into a pending approval state that the order will be moved to once RR approves the order. So fairly simple to do this type of scenario. So let's see it, right, before I move on. We went and built it, so why not try it out? So organizations, they live in here as well, and it's basically the same thing, right? I have my different corporations, and I can go in and view them. So contact information, order history across the organization for all customers, and of course the customers that are associated with it. And finally, the customizations here with the definition system, so you can add more fields. These are just two that I made up for the occasion. You can do whatever you want in here. And again, bespoke field editors, your ability to create your own editing experiences in here, supported here. So if you need something particular for the editing experience, you can plug it in. The cool thing is, if you do create a field editor, it is reusable across the entire platform. It's not just available inside organizational profiles or customer profiles. It will work for products. It will work for something else that we will look at in a moment. And it will work for, basically everything that's definition driven within Ucommerce. And these days, that is most things. Cool. Let's recap. So that's the customer center. You can create personalized customer experiences using profiles. You essentially set up the data you need and then leverage it in your website where appropriate. You can track the most valuable customers by order history. You can manage trading partners and their organization and buyers for B2B scenarios. So, you can track order history across organizations, so you can sort of see who's doing well. You can set up personalized catalogs and pricing, and you can support B2B workflows with organizational profiles. That's Customer Center. We already have customers that are looking into leveraging this, and it's going to be super, super fun to follow and see what it does. There's so much more we can do, and in fact, we are building the next round of features on this, so I can't wait for the next product update to show you what will be part of that.